Pearl to Janice flight. You are cleared to land.
The calm, authoritative voice crackled over the comms as Dio adjusted the flight controls. The heavy craft tilted upward, its engines roaring as they kicked up a swirling cloud of dust from the weathered landing pad.
Janice flight. Power down and hold for further instruction.
The voice repeated. The QVX Heavy's landing gear groaned under the strain, its hydraulic systems flexing to absorb the weight of the decelerating engines.
Good landing, Dio,
came a voice from the rear of the cockpit. Dio methodically flicked switches and tapped screens, powering down the systems.
Thanks, Ramir. It was a good fall.
The canopy hissed as it lifted, and a small ladder extended from the side of the craft. Dio descended onto the hard, cracked surface of the landing pad, removing his helmet. The cool night air brushed against his face, carrying the faint scent of dust and metal.
Where's the ground crew?
Ramir asked, stepping down beside him, his helmet clipped to his hip.
There's no ground crew here. This isn't an official base. We're here for pickup only.
Ramir shrugged, his eyes scanning their surroundings. The planet's twin moons cast a pale, silvery light over the landscape, illuminating the rusted fences and crumbling structures that dotted the area. The wind whispered through the gaps in the fences, making them creak and groan.
Where were they supposed to come from again?
Dio asked, pulling out his radio.
Ascending from the valley behind us. We're the early ones.
Dio nodded, adjusting the frequency on the radio.
Remember, radio silence.
Ramir warned, gently pushing the radio away from Dio's mouth.
You know most of these planets have wild fauna, right?
Ramir chuckled, adjusting the strap of his rifle.
We've got an insurance policy against that. Plus, the Big Back's twin cannons would love to solve our problems.
Dio clipped the radio onto his chest rig. A sudden thud echoed behind them, rattling the metal fence. Instantly, they dropped to the ground beneath the heavy. Ramir raised his rifle, scanning the darkness, while Dio donned his helmet, slaving the heavy's cannons and sensors to his control. But as the sensors came online, Dio sighed.
It's just a tree branch. Nothing else out there.
Ramir kept his rifle trained forward, his eyes narrowed.
You sure? Could something have fallen with that branch?
Positive. The heavy doesn't see anything except a withered branch.
They stayed under cover for another 30 minutes, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of the fence. Finally, the radio crackled to life.
Janice flight, do you copy?
We copy.
They rose from their crouched positions as the voice continued.
We are approaching from the east. Don't shoot us.
Dio smirked.
Understood.
The metal fence groaned as it was bent back. 5 figures emerged through the gap, their movements unnervingly smooth and precise. 2 of them carried a large rectangular container above their heads, its surface dull and unmarked. Dio's hand instinctively drifted toward his sidearm, but one of the figures stepped forward, extending a gloved mechanical hand.
Thanks for waiting,
the figure said, their voice low and raspy.
No worries,
Dio replied, shaking the hand. The grip was firm, the mechanical fingers cold even through his gloves.
Get your guys to the back,
Ramir said, shaking the hand as well, before gesturing toward the hauler. The ramp at the rear of the heavy lowered with a hydraulic whine, and the figures boarded, their movements almost too fluid to be human. Ramir helped them secure the container before returning to the cockpit, climbing the ladder with practiced ease. As the canopy lowered and sealed, Ramir strapped himself in.
Ever seen those guys before?
Nope.
Dio didn't linger on the thought. He focused on the pre-flight checks. The engines roared to life, and the heavy lifted off, climbing steadily into the sky.
Pearl flight checks are good. ETA 5 minutes.
The powerful engines pinned them to their seats as the craft shot upward, leaving the desolate planet behind. The Pearl floated in orbit above Hola, its sleek white and silver hull gleaming like its namesake. Dio guided the heavy into Landing Bay 2, where a handful of ground crew members directed them in with glowing light wands.
What's the tally for the next one?
Ramir asked, flicking a switch to lower the back ramp for their passengers to disembark.
Seeing as we got spooked by a branch, I'm betting on a potted plant.
Dio joked. Ramir huffed a dry chuckle as he raised the canopy. Dio noted how deserted the bay seemed. Only the highest-ranked ground crew were present, their movements brisk and efficient.
I'm heading to the mess hall. You coming?
Ramir asked, unstrapping himself.
No, I'm showering first, then I'll join you.
As they disembarked, the bay chief approached, his expression serious.
Hey, Captain wants to see you both. He's in his office.
Ramir shot Dio a stern look.
What did you do?
Dio raised his hands in mock surrender.
Nothing. Swear.
Ramir sighed as they made their way to the elevator. The captain's office was spacious, a stark contrast to the cramped quarters of the ship. They passed several support staff before reaching his door.
We're here to see the big guy.
Dio said, flashing a smile at the female secretary as Ramir slumped into a seat in the waiting area. The secretary pressed a button on her earpiece.
Captain, they're here. Should I let them in?
After a brief pause, she nodded.
You can enter.
Inside, the captain was seated on a couch, a book in his hands. He marked his page with a metal card and set it down on the glass coffee table, gesturing to the seats across from him.
Thank you for coming so quickly. Have a seat.
Dio and Ramir obeyed, sitting stiffly.
You aren't in trouble, Dio. Hopefully.
The captain gave a shallow smile before reaching for a leather satchel beside him. He pulled out a file and handed it over.
I'll be brief. You've both been chosen for a mission within the next 8 hours. I suggest you freshen up and get as much rest as possible. It's going to be a long one. The mission brief is in this file.
Dio scanned the contents, his brow furrowing.
Long haul?
Yes. Both of you passed your hauler flight tests, and we don't have any hauler crews at the ready. Timuk's team is either on tight schedules or in quarantine due to the flu. Timuk himself is off on another mission. That leaves you two.
Ramir took the file, flipping through it.
This will be our first flight outside the simulator without supervision.
The captain nodded.
Yes, but you passed the tests. You're cleared for this mission. You'll be delivering special cargo. Cargo you just brought in. Destination, mustering point, Alicia.
Dio and Ramir exchanged a glance before standing at attention and saluting.
Understood, sir.
The hauler, attached to the outer hull of the Pearl, was a massive vessel, its bulk too large to anchor within the bay. Dio and Ramir boarded, their movements practiced and efficient.
This is Flight VVX-30, hauler-class chowder to Flight Watch. We are 5 minutes to departure.
Dio announced over the comms. A rugged voice responded.
It's going to be a 10-day mission, given you meet the jump timelines. We estimate consistent presidium fields. You'll have a short window to supply at the 2 major way stations, Bell and Nuria. The locations have been added to the navigation unit. Ensure you meet the jump windows, or your time will be extended to 3 months. Stay safe and best of luck. Over.
The bay chief's voice crackled through the ship's comms.
10 days of sheer boredom. Why did we take those classes again?
Ramir asked as he initiated the decoupling sequence.
Mandatory. It was for situations like these. Don't worry. We've got a library of a million other distractions. We'll be fine.
The Pearl's clamps released, and the hauler drifted clear of the ship's artificial gravity. The thrusters engaged, and the heavy craft began its journey.
Let's just hope it's a boring flight, Ramir. Let's just hope.